Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Employment first, that's our topic today on Save As Ability. Welcome back. It's great to be back with you, David D'Arcangelo, another episode. And we've been getting a great response, so please help us keep that going. If you could like, subscribe, share, comment, we'd appreciate it. It helps our channel grow so that we can keep great content flowing for you. So, as you know, if you've been watching our episodes, we'd like to talk about employment. And it occurred to me that there's like these overarching principles that we keep talking about all the time, but there is a specific movement out there that many in the disability community have been involved with. And there's organizations set up for an advocacy around. And it's really what we've been talking about. And it's the principle of employment first. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and go a little bit of a deep dive on some of its points. So, you know what we've been talking about, like employment just isn't about income. Yeah, it's about that, and that brings freedom and everything else, and that's important. But it's also about using your talents for both yourself as a person, but also for society and the benefits that it brings. So this is a win-win-win, right? And, we're the biggest champions of employment for people with disabilities here. So, but what is employment first, right? So employment first focuses on supporting people with disabilities in attaining employment in the general workforce. Well, why do we say that? Because historically, many people with disabilities oftentimes were not focused by policymakers, by programs put forward to be in the general workforce. They were often in other environments that weren't fully integrated, right? Now, we've come out of that mostly. There still are some remnants, but really that's the thrust of it, is to make sure we're talking about parity here, parity among all people, and that people with disabilities are working side by side, hand in hand with everybody else, people both with and without disabilities. So employment should be the first and preferred option for people with disabilities. Why? It helps bring independence, self-determination, and all the things we just talked about making good on the talents and abilities that everybody has for both their benefit and society's. We've got to talk a little bit about some advocates here. And a big organization in this is called APSE. It's the Association of People Supporting Employment First. They're kind of like a big national organization, big nonprofit group, really made up of people with disabilities too. And their goal is to support people with disabilities in this employment first movement. Okay. And it's made up of advocates, and their core principle is that when individuals with disabilities seek public assistance, the top priority should be employment in the general workforce, right? And so this is going back a little bit in the 90s, where we had the Clinton era, and Congress came together with welfare to work and things like that. So it's a similar type of thing. It's basically saying, look, if you're going to be on the public benefits, we really want employment to be your first goal and not these other things that kind of take you away from that. So it's like, what's their phrase is real jobs at real wages. And, they seek to create opportunities for everybody, all people with disabilities. And that's a good thing. And so, but what are we talking about then in the general workforce, right? People with disabilities is such a large spectrum, and it's all of the different prevalence types that we've talked about. And within each prevalence type, there is a large spectrum, right? We know that many people with disabilities are aging into those disabilities. So maybe they're starting their career in employment without a disability, or without a disability that is substantially limiting, right? Back to the definitions that we've been talking about. But then as time goes on, it does become substantially limiting, and they need more and more reasonable accommodations and things like that. So again, what we're seeking here, though, is parity. We're trying to get people with disabilities, one, in the labor force, and then two, employed, because we recognize from previous episodes that we have a two-step challenge. The first challenge is getting people resolved to be in the labor force. And then once you're in the labor force, getting people to work. So yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity to get people with disabilities into the labor force included so that they can, really have access to freedom, enhanced freedom, and making good on that talent. So, again, historically, individuals with disabilities were steered more towards like these facility-based options, or, sometimes even the distant past, segregated workshops. And again, there's some remnants of that now, but we're doing away with that 14C and things like that. But this matters. Employment first principles kind of matter because what we're talking about is unlocking the potential of such a large amount of individuals in America that our labor force needs. Those people need to be able to get compensated and become independent and self-determined, but also our labor force needs it as well to be able to fill these jobs. So it's a win-win-win when it's done well. There are great examples of it that we want to bring out. And again, APSE does a pretty good job of this. Washington State, for example, has like 89% of individuals in their employment first programs work in community-based jobs. But the national average is only like the low 20% or something like that. So, what they're doing up there is obviously working. And again, I think they're addressing the two-step challenge. One, get people resolved to want to work and be in a labor force. And two, then getting them the job in a competitive integrated work environment. So, policy-wise, there is a discussion here. And what is government's role on this? I happen to believe in that government should be less regulations, right? Let's leave it more up to the individual and to the business and incentivize it, both for the individual and for the business. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to modernize these programs so that we can really get more people into the labor force, get them employed. That'll help the employee, the employer, and we've been through the steps we're talking about. So, but there should be like a deal there. There's a good deal there to be had. And it's basically like, okay, rather than have many of these benefit programs reward these things that are not work-based, let's try to get the funding more towards programs that are work-based, okay? And like, Centers for Medicaid, for example, we can work on those regulations. In IDA, that's the educational law, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, have employment be in everybody's individualized education plan, as an example, and, VR and all that. But there's ways to do that better and more efficiently and get better outcomes. Because unfortunately, some of these programs have evolved in a way where they really are not meeting what they could or should be able to do for people with disabilities. And again, there's ways to improve that. And we can agree or disagree, but we should have a healthy debate about that to figure out what we can do to improve the situation. So again, I wanted to talk about employment first here. It is important. It's not just me. This is a national movement. And there is a little bit of a debate in the disability community about it. But when it started, it was on one side. And I think the tide has really turned, that the large majority of individuals out there now, both people with disabilities, their family, and society, agrees that employment first is the way to go. So I hope you got something out of this episode. I'm fired up as usual, talking about all the great talents and abilities that our people with disabilities have. Let me know what you want to hear. Put it in the comments, like, subscribe, share, so we can keep great content flowing for you. It's David D'Arcangelo, another episode of Save Visibility, and I hope you have a great day. For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.